trip, the train he would have been on crashed. I don't know what surprises me more, the fact that you predicted the train crash or that you actually saved the life of your rival, meaning you gave up your chance to be with Catherine.
You must remember Robert was a friend of mine. As for that train crash, knowing it would happen was not unusual for me. I could always foresee the future, but not everyone believed me. I begged my friend and patron, Colonel Astor, not to board the Titanic, but he didn't follow my advice.
How sad. Or maybe it was just a coincidence. Speaking of him, I've heard that Colonel Astor, who was the owner of the Waldorf Astoria hotels, was the one who gave you $30,000 for your research in Colorado Springs.
That is not quite true. Mr. Astor financed some businessmen from a local electric company in Colorado Springs who were researching the electric potential of thunderstorms. It was they who invited me there. The fact that Colorado Springs is located in a zone of strong geomagnetic activity intrigued me. What this means is, there are more thunderstorms in that area than there is sunshine. The local engineers wanted to know if there is any way to accumulate the energy produced by lightning strikes and then use it. Of course, I could not pass up a chance to participate in such a unique experiment. The laboratory I built there was ideal. I put up a sign there saying, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here," and began to do my geomagnetic research. In the center of my lab, I built this massive transformer. One end of its primary winding was grounded, and the other end I raised to a great height. As a result, this device was able to store energy and produce a lightning-like current of several million volts and a frequency of 150,000 hertz. But I wanted more. I wanted to know whether this technology could transmit energy wirelessly over long distances using the ground as a transmitter. Not far from the lab, I put 200 bulbs in the ground and waited for a storm. As soon as the ball at the top of the mast was struck by lightning, my laboratory came to life. The transformer collected the lightning energy and threw it into the atmosphere with triple force. Try to imagine it. I had created man-made lightning that was 40 meters long. The energy flow covered the city. The entire city was literally saturated with electricity. I didn't expect such an effect, but my theories had been proven. I was able to transmit an electric charge wirelessly across the ground. 200 bulbs were lit at a 25-mile radius from the Tower Razam. Unfortunately, the local power station was not ready for such a large-scale experiment. The city's generator simply burnt out. After that incredible experience, I wrote an article about the possible uses of currents transmitted by high-frequency standing wave energy. This had practical application for lighting, heating, the control and movement of electric transport. Electricity could be used everywhere. It could be transported through the ground, in the air, used for automatic machines. The wireless uses of electricity are endless.
Yes, I remember reading it. There were so many fantastic predictions. How to harness energy from the sun. Aluminum, the metal of the future. Using the Earth's internal heat. Transfer of electric power anywhere in the world without the use of wires. Interplanetary radio communications.
It was that article I wrote that caught the eye of the well-known banker and industrialist John Pierpont Morgan. And he decided to meet with me. Imagine how much benefit wave energy could have for mankind.
That sounds interesting. I want you to work on the development of radio communications. I need a cheap but reliable connection that will work so I can communicate over long distances. To get you started, I'll give you $150,000 to cover your costs of research. After that, we'll talk.
Radio. What mediocrity. But I agreed to what Morgan asked of me, to have the opportunity to continue working on the wireless transmission of electricity. We bought several acres of land on Long Island and started the construction of a wireless transmission power station. It was a 57-meter tower frame with a steel shaft that went deep into the ground. A huge copper hemisphere which worked as a powerful amplification transmitter was installed at the top of the huge structure. The idea for the project was to use the resonant buildup of the ionosphere. I was sure that I could accumulate the energy extracted from the air anywhere in the world and use that energy in any kind of form, as an explosion of thousands of bombs or a man-made aurora borealis. I lit the sky for thousands of miles. However, Morgan, that blind man, wasn't inspired.
There's something I still don't get. How can we use your light show for the purpose of transmitting radio signals?
I'll explain, sir. The real future use of this experiment
As
is
you know,
communicating by
Marconi
me.
sent radio signals from England to Canada 5 years ago. I invested in you because I knew about your outstanding abilities. But after what I've seen today, I still need a radio.
Mr. Morgan. Sir. Sir, with this plant we can send energy for thousands of miles, not just some radio signals. You could have a second wireless tower
I am
built
not
near the
interested
Niagara Falls in
things
New
unless
York.
they give me an immediate commercial profit. I need radio signal transmissions.
Marconi! Marconi! I want you to know I was 3 years ahead of Marconi, that simpleton. And that Russian Popov. In 1893, I developed my first radio 5 years before them.
Of course you understand. What I'm saying is this is all about...
Morgan cut off all his funding. The Wardenclyffe project was shut down. In 1917, in the middle of the First World War, the tower, which could have been the beginning of free electricity, was destroyed. The United States government suspected that German spies might somehow secretly use the tower as a radio transmitter. However, Morgan didn't stop me from managing to achieve something monumental. I was able to conduct only one complete experiment under the Wardenclyffe project, but how great it was! To avoid any loss of life, I found the most remote location in eastern Siberia and sent through the ionosphere a huge burst of energy to Tunguska, and that is where it exploded. The entire northern hemisphere saw that light that I had created.
Wait a minute. Are you implying that the Tunguska meteorite explosion was you?
I'm not implying anything. I was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement by the U.S. government. But those who had eyes could see the truth. Come, take a look. No wonder those damn security services still keep track of me.
What makes you think he's a federal agent?
Because with the sheer enormity of my intellect, my mind could still create a massively destructive weapon. The Tunguska meteorite was only the beginning. I designed the rays of peace which could destroy thousands of planes 100 miles away. Every country would be able to defend itself with an invisible Great Wall by putting towers with the rays of peace along their nation's borders. Of course, the military would give anything to get their hands on my rays of peace, so they could turn them into rays of death. Because if my rays of peace were placed in a certain configuration, anything surrounded by them would be utterly destroyed.